What if I told you that you could become a more mindful and assertive person by just having more cuddling in your life? Impossible, right? There's a powerful quote that I like to share, which might change the way you look at touch forever. When Jim Burke, a former CEO of Johnson & Johnson, spoke to the world-leading touch researcher, Dr. Tiffany Field, he said, "If there was more touch in the world, there would be less disease and fewer wars." I'd like to tell you about my first day working as a cuddle therapist. Yes, we do exist. I was on the tube on my way home after the session, and somehow things felt very different. I felt more at ease, and my mind was clearer. My sensory system had come alive, and everything seemed magnified, as if I had been given a window into a secret world. It was a moment of realization, like a switch had been flicked, and a new way of life had opened up before me. Imagine for a moment that you won the lottery, or that your team has won the league. That sheer joy that brings a smile to your face is how I felt after my first cuddle session, and it's the same way that I still feel after one today. I used to work in an image-driven fashion industry. I can imagine what you're thinking. Fashion design to cuddle therapy, such a natural career transition. In my old career, I was concerned with external appearances over and above my internal well-being. Looking back at my younger self, I grew up in a loving family, but touch didn't play a big role. And I also had partners who were sometimes distant. When we lack tactile connection, our health suffers. We are a social species, and as such, we need a sense of connection and togetherness to thrive. That's why the connection we receive through cuddling can radically change the way we think, feel, and behave. But yet the path towards becoming a cuddle therapist wasn't easy. As part of the journey, you have to understand and embrace vulnerability. This proved to be difficult as it's human instinct to shun away from it, but I've since learned that it's crucial for helping us grow and becoming enlightened versions of ourselves. By coming to terms with our own vulnerabilities, our self-confidence and assertiveness increase. I felt that I became more authentic over time, and by discovering myself, I was in the best position to help others do the same. You may have heard the reports about children growing up in Romanian orphanages who were touch deprived. The children were given enough food and water, but due to staffing shortages, they received little physical or emotional contact. Those children grew up experiencing behavioral, social, and emotional issues later in life. Another study compared adolescents in tactile France with the more standoffish US. The American teenagers demonstrated greater signs of aggressive verbal and physical behavior than their French counterparts, which was linked to reduced exposure to touch. Body image issues, stress, and loneliness are just some of the additional problems that can arise from the absence of touch. If we take stress as an example, a 2018 report by the Mental Health Foundation showed that it left 74% of UK adults feeling unable to cope in the preceding year. 1/3 of adults said that they had experienced suicidal thoughts as a result of stress, and 1 in 6 people said that they had self-harmed. Yet according to Dr. Tiffany Field, when our skin moves through being touched or through exercise such as yoga, pressure receptors are stimulated, and this slows down our heart rate, blood pressure, and the release of cortisol, which gives people better control of their stress hormones. While a lack of touch isn't responsible for all mental health issues, it can provide a soothing effect for people experiencing them. Last year alone, more than 70 million prescriptions were given out in the UK for anxiety and depression, a figure that has almost doubled in the space of just 10 years. That's why I feel quite emotional when I meet people who haven't received platonic touch in months or sometimes years. As a session progresses with such individuals, you see a transformation take place before you. And compared to a dry desert waiting for life-giving rains to fall, when those rains finally arrive, an oasis of life transforms the landscape. Touch is like that life-giving force. So, why have we lost touch? While research around the importance of touch continues to grow, we're seeing less and less of it in our everyday interactions. Technology has made us more connected than ever before, but at the expense of real-life social interactions that are crucial for our well-being. More safeguarding has also grown around touch to such an alarming extent that teachers ask students to apply their own plasters, and doctors hesitate over consoling patients receiving bad news. Yet research from UC Berkeley found that receiving eye contact and a pat on the back from a doctor could boost survival rates of patients with complex diseases. In the age of technological progress and political correctness, the healing power of touch and the analgesic effect of a simple cuddle seem to have been forgotten. Furthermore, we feel ashamed to make ourselves vulnerable by asking others to meet our needs. Asking for touch would require us to consciously recognize it as a personal need. Doing so can prompt us to look more deeply at our lives and confront our demons. Instead, we look for intimacy through other routes normalized by society, such as alcohol-inspired camaraderie or one-night stands that can prove adequate but temporary solutions. I believe that their needs could be better met in other ways. To put the touch deprivation issue into context, our non-human primates spend around 10 to 20% of their days grooming each other. Think about how much touch you received today. Does it compare to that figure? With 900 hours of cuddle sessions behind me, I am in no doubt about the significant benefits that cuddling brings. Cuddle therapy involves platonic hugs, hand-holding, and gentle arm rubs combined with talking therapy. Clients can feel a sense of safety with a trusted practitioner and are able to express their needs and emotions, which are often repressed. On a personal level, cuddling has improved my cognitive alertness and ability to learn new things because it helps reset my mind and body. If I've got an important task to do, I know from an experience that I'll feel more eager to tackle it after a cuddle session when my mind feels sharper. Now, the link between cognitive functioning and touch was explored in research carried out at the US hospital. It showed that caring touch delivered to premature babies could help build cognition, behavior, and communication, which influences intelligence in later life. Similarly, I have seen people from all walks of life benefit from human touch in a range of ways. I had people walk into a session with their heads held low, the weight of the world resting on their shoulders and dragging them down. But the beauty of cuddles are that they create a shared space for reflection and discussion, which helps ease the crushing burden of suffering. The overwhelming feedback that I receive from my clients is that their problems no longer feel as daunting or as formidable by the end of the session. In some ways, cuddling is almost like a form of meditation. Thoughts fade away when you're in a warm embrace and you become truly present. People describe themselves as if floating on a cloud, enjoying a lightness and a feeling of freedom that few other experiences can provide. Oxytocin, the trust and bonding hormone, is released when we cuddle. This is the same hormone that helps a mother and child bond, so it isn't surprising why cuddles feel like such a nurturing experience. One of my clients once said that psychologists often talk about the importance of secure attachment in order to thrive. Through cuddling, you might find that you can restore this vital resource and heal the wounds that have stopped you from really living. It's a therapeutically healing journey where we learn to listen and trust our instincts once again. But it's also important to remember that while cuddling can be part of a vital solution, it can't fix all our problems. There can be a number of underlying emotional issues that might be present for people which other forms of therapy may be more suitable for. When I provided a cuddle session for the editor of GQ magazine, he wrote that, "We're not proclaiming this to be the grand panacea for humanity, but rather another way of people being able to pay to suit, to learn, and to become more comfortable with the world outside." If you're unable to receive touch, you can replicate the well-being effects of touch by doing yoga, going for a fast walk, or brushing yourself in the shower. These activities will engage the receptors under the skin. On a personal level, I could never have guessed that by having more affectionate touch in my life, I'd be more emotionally stable and that my relationships would be created on trust instead of need. That as an individual, I'd find a greater sense of purpose and motivation in my life. I've learned that our shared needs are much more important than our differences. This is a valuable lesson for our individualistic society, where people often feel the need to identify themselves based on what sets them apart, instead of celebrating what makes us human and connects us to one another. It's time we embrace touch and debunk the myth that touch is not an important ingredient to thrive. Let cuddles be your source of comfort through pain and hardship. Embrace your children, your family, and your friends, and watch as your life changes. Cuddling transformed my life and gave me a newfound respect for shared humanity. I believe it can do the same for you too. Thank you.